Hi, welcome. I'm Hannah. This is Theology Therapist, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about critical thinking. So I mentioned it last week in a video. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, go watch it now, and then come back. And this week, I want to talk about critical thinking. So Wikipedia, I'm just going to read you this quote because I think it's a really helpful basis for us to have. I'll link it here if you want to learn more. Just basic Wikipedia. Here we go. So Wikipedia says that critical thinking is the analysis of available facts, evidence, observations, and arguments to form a judgment. Critical thinking is self-directed, self-disciplined, self-monitored, and self-corrective thinking. It presupposes assent to rigorous standards of excellence and mindful command of their use. It entails effective communication and problem-solving abilities, as well as a commitment to overcome native egocentrism and sociocentrism. End quote. So I wanted to talk to you about what the impact of critical thinking is in our lives, and I think how rarely we actually use it, and really how we're not taught. We're really not taught that great how to implement critical thinking in our lives. So sometimes maybe in high school, we might have a great high school teacher who teaches us how to think critically, but it's really not until college, I would say, that, especially if you go to a liberal arts college, that we're taught how to think critically, how to approach an argument and assess what we think about that argument. I remember the first time I think I had to have been in college when I realized that I could disagree with the author of a book, and I think that we're not taught. It was like somebody wrote a book and that's what it is. And I'm so curious, if you guys had great teachers in high school who did teach you how to critically think, definitely let me know about that. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this person, I was studying in college religious studies and reading a book, and I remember being empowered to disagree with the author of the book. So we are taught how to analyze a short story or maybe a business plan, but we're really not taught how to place our own beliefs up against the same method. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what is involved in critical thinking. So first, we have the ability to communicate ideas in an easy to understand fashion. So in order to do this, you have to be able to boil down these ideas and to communicate them in an easy to understand fashion. So for somebody with, a lot of times we think like a 7th grade for writing and for journalism. I think it's we want to be writing newspapers and such for sort of 7th grade level, right? So that's how easy to understand we want to make our sort of arguments, our belief, if you will. Second, the ability to listen actively without formulating a rebuttal or response while the other person is speaking. I know for myself, and I spoke to many people during, it's kind of happening less now, but during the Trump years, and it was just people mobilized and on both sides. And it was, I think then more than ever, we developed this tendency to not hear what somebody's saying, especially if we knew what they were talking about, the opposing side, but to formulate our response while they were talking so that we were ready to go when they stopped, or to interject before they even did stop. And then the third quality of critical thinking is being attentive to nonverbal communication. So, that statistic that 80% of communication is not what comes out of our mouth, right? And so critical thinking is also being attuned to nonverbal cues. What we can tell from nonverbal cues is we can tell if somebody is defensive, we can tell if somebody is disengaging, they're sort of starting to look around. we can tell if they are engaged by leaning forward. So we can tell a lot of things. We can also tell if they're like getting really quiet. So we can tell if somebody's getting really quiet, or if they're yelling, or if they use like really loud gestures, or big gestures, or if they sort of stay within the plane of their body, right? Those are all really important nonverbal cues that form a part of communication. And so as we are engaging in critical thinking, the communication aspect of what's being said verbally and non-verbally is going to cue us into how to be in the space and how to approach the conversation. So at the end of that quote, there was this line that said, commitment to overcoming native egocentrism and sociocentrism. What does that mean, and why is it important for critical thinking? First, it's the commitment to overcoming the belief that I'm right, period. Just want to let that sink in for a sec. Overcoming the belief that I'm right, period. Because what happens to my beliefs if I let go of the need to be right? Am I less committed? Am I less caring? Am I not really a believer? What does it mean for my beliefs that I hold to be sort of universal truths if I concede that they might not be right, or if I can be wrong? How can I sit at the table with somebody who fundamentally disagrees with me with something that I might believe to be a universal truth? The idea that something that I believe in so strongly that has even changed my life could be wrong is scary. Even if we don't give up the belief, the idea that we could be wrong about it costs us something. It costs our pride, it costs our ego, it costs our certainty. So if I'm vaccinated and I'm thinking critically, and I'm entertaining the idea that maybe I'm wrong, like maybe I don't have it all figured out, it's scary because I got a vaccine. This is my body. This is my health. But if I'm wrong about being so sure about this, why did I do that? Or what was that for? Or the opposite. I am not vaccinated. If I'm thinking critically and I think, okay, I'm not vaccinated and I hold that maybe I'm not right about this. Oh my God, if I'm not right about this, then what was all my suffering for? Or, the suffering imposed on myself, or being among others, or there having been a way through this, right? So, in both sides of these examples, entertaining, holding to be true that the idea that I could be wrong costs me something. And it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really scary to think that. Because, for that example, there are consequences for both of those things. There's real life lived consequences, and I think that that's the cost of critical thinking, right? The cost of critical thinking is figuring out how to exist in that tension. But I think that it's worth it. I encourage you to try more and more to put up, maybe not your biggest belief, because if you're not used to this, it's a little scary, but try some of your beliefs against this and see what would happen if could you entertain the idea of being wrong about this? What would that mean to you? And I think that the cost of critical thinking is high, but I would argue that the cost of the masses not critical thinking is much higher. because we end up with sort of collective ignorance and growing discord, growing chasm between groups of people, and no sort of understanding or concept of how to bridge the two again. I would posit that the bridge between these two groups is critical thinking. And sometimes we need support to do that, right? I did a lot of my thinking about these things in the context of academic communities, where I was surrounded by other people who were doing their thinking about these things. And having the support of those communities provided me the sort of safety net to be able to do that critical thinking and to do really a lot of the hard work around the beliefs that I have and the ways that I'm living in a safe way. Because if I'm reassessing all of these really big life things and I'm not doing that in a safe way, that it's gonna feel really scary. Like I said, it's gonna feel isolating, and I might not be able to see all of the way through it, right? The benefit of doing this in community is that you have other people at different places on the journey, and some people who have finished, right? Like some people who have reached the end or are further along in the journey, and provide a sort of anchor of hope that the hard work of sort of critical thinking is worth it, and you can actually get through it, because I've done it, they've done it, right? Like, because you have this community of people around you, and at one point you become that person for someone else, and that's a gift. I believe that if we challenged ourselves to critical thinking more often, we would begin to repair the divide in our nation, experience greater depth and richness in our relationships, and have a better understanding of our beliefs and a little bit more lightheartedness when somebody disagrees with them. Thanks for being here today. If you are in the midst of critical thinking, of assessing some of your lived beliefs and your believed beliefs, your ideological beliefs, and you need support, I really encourage you to reach out to a local therapist or clergy. If you are in Massachusetts and you would like to connect with me, I would be happy to set up an appointment with you for a consultation. You can click the link in the description to learn more. And otherwise, I hope that you are well, and I will see you again next week. Make sure to click that subscribe button so you get updates on all new weekly drops. See you next time.